So, Java programs are comprised of whitespace, identifier, literal, operator, comments, separators, and keywords. These are called lexical elements. And the lexical elements are the smallest unit in a Java source code. We will discuss literals and operators in the next video. For this video, we will focus on the other five. So let's get started. The Hello World program that you see here has got some space before the start of these lines. This space is called indentation, and this is done to visually separate and organize the code blocks. Indentation has no effect on how the Java program runs. Now, the same Java program can be written in any way as long as we have at least one space between every lexical element that we have in this program. And lexical element is also called token. Let me quickly demonstrate that to you. So if you see, what I've done is I've put all of this in one single line, and I've ensured that there's at least one space between every lexical element that we have here. Now, what do you expect would happen if I run this code? Let's find out. If I run the program, we still get the same output that we got when the program was properly indented and organized. So if you're wondering, why do we need indentation? Why do we need spaces if we can write the same program by leaving just one single space between every lexical element? Well, to answer your question, let me ask another question. Which of these two that you see on your screen right now would you prefer? Would you prefer the left one, which has got no indentation and there's only one space between every lexical element? Or would you prefer the right one, which is properly indented and well organized? For a very small program like the Hello World program, it may not matter much. But imagine having hundreds of lines of code in a single Java file and it is not properly organized. It will be very difficult to read, understand, and modify it if required. So, white space refers to the characters that create horizontal or vertical space in the source code. In this file, we have got horizontal space over here. And for the vertical space, we have got a new line entirely, which is I wanted to give a vertical space after declaring the class. So what I did was I had pressed enter. So in Java, a white space includes a space, a tab, or a new line. These are used for horizontal spaces, and the new line is used for the vertical space. Next, let us talk about comments. Let us assume that you want to take notes related to this code so that you can refer to them later. One way is to write this code on a paper using a pen and then take your notes. The other way would be to copy this into a text editor, for example, WordPad or Sublime Text, and take your notes. But what if you can take your notes in the code itself? For example, let's say I want to add a note over here saying main method is the entry point of the Java program. As soon as I added this line, you can see a few reds over here. And if I run this code, I will get an error saying a semicolon expected. Let us say we add semicolon over here because as we have discussed earlier, semicolon is used to terminate a statement. So even if I add a semicolon over here, you can still see a few reds over here. And you can also see a red underline below hello world.java. You can see red here as well. So if I run this code, I still get semicolon expected. And it is not happening because the semicolon is missing. It is happening because the Java compiler cannot recognize whatever you have written over here. So what should we do now? If we can somehow ask the Java compiler to ignore this line during the process of compilation, it will make the work easier for us, right? And we can do that with the help of comments. In Java or any programming language for that matter, comments are the notes that you add to your code and that is ignored by the compiler. Comments are used to make the code easier for humans to read and understand. They can explain what a section does. They can also remind you of something important, or it is also used to temporarily disable code that you don't want to run. In total, there are 3 different types of comments in Java. The first one is called a single line comment. The second one is called multi-line comment. And the last one is called documentation comment. You can figure out what a single line comment and a multi-line comment is with the name itself. A single line comment is a comment that is put on one single line. And to add a single line comment, what we do is we use double forward slashes and then we add the text after this. So if we have to make this a single line comment, what will we have to do is we will have to add double forward slashes. And now you can see all the reds are gone. And if I run this program, we will get hello world as the output. Next up is the multi-line comment, and a multi-line comment, as the name suggests, spans over multiple lines. It starts with a forward slash and an asterisk, and it ends with an asterisk and a forward slash. So if we have to put this as a multi-line comment, what we will have to do is we will have to put a forward slash and an asterisk, and we can press enter. And IntelliJ is smart enough to identify that this is a multi-line comment, and it added an asterisk and a forward slash itself. Now, between these two slash asterisk and asterisk slash, we can put our comment. And if I run the code now, we can see it is successfully compiling and giving us the output that we expect. The last one is the documentation comment, and it starts with a slash followed by two asterisks, and it ends with an asterisk and a slash. Now, if this spans over multiple lines, each line will have an asterisk at the beginning. Let me show you how a documentation comment looks like, and then we will talk more about it. For that, what am I going to do is I'm going to hover over the system written over here, press Command or Control, and click on it. And it will take me to a file called system.java. Now, the system.java is the Java source code, and it was written by the developers of Java. If I hover over the green text over here and I click on the pencil icon, I'll see something that we have discussed just now. It starts with forward slash and double asterisk. It ends with an asterisk and a forward slash, and each line starts with an asterisk. So this is an example of a documentation comment. A documentation comment is used to describe what a method or a class or an interface does, the inputs that they take, the output that they give, and other important details. And these comments becomes invaluable when your code is to be used by other programmers as either a library or an API. For example, the system class that was developed by the developers of Java will be used by programmers like you and me. And if there's something that we want to understand, for sure we can take a look at the code, but a documentation comment like this helps us understand what the class does without going through the entire class. For the purpose of documentation, you can use a single line comment and a multi-line comment too. For example, this entire thing could have been a multi-line comment. But the only difference in using a multi-line comment and a documentation comment is that Java doc works properly with a documentation comment because there's a specific structure attached to documentation comment. And if you follow that structure, a documentation tool like Java doc will make it into a neat, easy to read and understand documentation. For most use cases when learning Java or DSA or both, a single line comment or a multi-line comment would be sufficient if you have to take some notes in the code itself. Next, let's talk about keyword. Keywords refers to those words that hold special meaning to the compiler. Like some words hold a meaning for you. For example, hand or pen. So if we come back to the code that we wrote, we have some words, for example, public, class, static, etc. These are keywords. They have some meaning to the compiler. Now, we are not going to discuss what exactly a public does or what static is or what void is, but we for sure will come across these terms while discussing specific topics. For example, classes and objects and methods. Like public, static, and void, there are a lot of other keywords in Java which you can see on your screen. Now, you don't need to memorize all of these because it is not needed. If you ask me to list down all of the keywords, I won't be able to. As you gain deeper understanding of Java, you will be able to figure out yourself which one is a keyword and which one is not. Moreover, IntelliJ will also help you in figuring out which word is a keyword and which one is not. For example, you can see public, class, static, and void in orange. But main is not in orange, for example. System, println is not in orange. These words that are in orange are the keywords. Other than these keywords, Java reserves true, false, and null. In short, the entire list that we saw earlier and these three words hold special meaning to the Java compiler. Next, let's talk about separators. Separators are special characters or symbols that divide and organize different elements in a program's structure. In front of you on the screen is a list of separators in Java. For example, we have parentheses, braces, and brackets. And we also have semicolon, which we know is used to terminate statements in Java except for block statements. Then we also have comma, period, or a full stop, colons, ellipsis, and at sign. Lastly, let us talk about identifiers. Identifiers are the words that we use to name different things in Java. For example, we have a class over here and we name this class Hello World. Hello World is an identifier. Similarly, we will use identifiers to name methods and variables in Java. There are certain restrictions on what we can choose as an identifier. Let us talk about them one by one. First of all, a keyword cannot be chosen as an identifier. For example, we know that static is a keyword. So we cannot name a class or a method or a variable static. Similarly, we cannot use public for naming a method, a class, or variable, for example. Then an identifier may contain any of the uppercase letter or any of the lowercase letter, an underscore, a dollar sign, or any of the digits. However, there's one important rule, and that an identifier cannot begin with a number. For example, if I put 1 NUM as an identifier, this is not allowed and Java will throw an error. However, if I say num1, this is a valid identifier. Similarly, say AVG is a valid identifier, or if I say AVG temperature, this also is a valid identifier. Likewise, I can also say AVG underscore TEMP, and this also will be a valid identifier. But if I say, let's say AVG hyphen TMP, this is a hyphen, not an underscore. This will be invalid. This will not be allowed in Java. Or if I say AVG slash TMP, even this will not be allowed. So that is all for this video. Summarizing, we have discussed what lexical elements are and that there are 7 lexical elements. Out of those 7, we discussed about whitespace, comments, keywords, separators, and identifiers. I hope I've been able to teach you something new and useful. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or queries, feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.